Good morning and welcome to Living in Lansing, Michigan, your resource for everything you need to know about buying a home, selling a home, or living in the Greater Lansing area. I am Brooks Warner, local real estate agent with the Mint Home team at Keller Williams Realty, and today I have a special treat for you. I will be interviewing one of the top home inspectors here in the Greater Lansing area, Jason Merton from Accurate Home Inspections, and he's going to tell us a little bit about why home inspections are important, what you can expect from the home inspection process when you're buying a home. So stay tuned for some great information. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, share this video with anyone you know who's thinking about buying a home, that it might be some great information for them. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I will be sure to respond to you, or feel free to email me at brooks@mittenhometeam.com. I answer questions every day about the home buying process here in the Greater Lansing area, and I'd be happy to answer yours as well. All right, I'm here with Jason Merton, local home inspector of the Greater Lansing area, owner of Accurate Inspections. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and what you guys do?
I've owned Accurate Inspections for 7-8 years now. Joined Accurate Inspections going on a little over 30 years now. So I've been in the business for a long time. I am a licensed builder. My building experience goes from house restoration to some custom homes and some spec homes back in the 90s. So
awesome. So what type of inspections do you guys cover? Because there's lots of different options out there.
Lots of options out there. We basically, if it's a real estate transaction we offer it. Your basic home inspection. We also do commercial inspections. We offer radon testing. We do mold testing. We have pest inspections. We also have a full line of pest remediation services via our pest company. We do well and septic inspections, point of sale inspections, and sewer scoping.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, what's the point of sale?
Point of sale is several counties in Michigan require a well and septic inspection to be done to transfer title. And so we call those a point of sale. Different counties have a little different terminology to it, but that's basically what we're talking about, is a well and septic inspection that the county is requiring for the transfer of title.
Okay, awesome. Let's see, where do you want to start? You want to start with what to expect at a home inspection?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some fallacies out there about a home inspection. First of all, it's not a warranty. We as home inspectors are only allowed to do certain things during the home inspection. It's a non-invasive inspection. So we'll walk the roof, we'll walk all the rooms, we'll get in the attic, we'll look in crawl spaces. Some inspectors will check out buildings, some won't, just depends on who we're talking to. But we're not allowed to physically open up a wall. We're not allowed to break things, take things apart. Furnace, for example, we can take the cover off, but we're not allowed to disassemble any further than that. So that does limit what we can see. We're gonna make sure things operate under normal usage, but we can't disassemble it. And when we check a heat exchanger, for example, we're just gonna be able to visually inspect and electronically test. We can't disassemble it, stick an inspection camera up through its internals. So basically a visual inspection, testing everything that's going on in the house.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's going to vary depending on who the inspector is, but what kind of price range are we looking at in general for the Greater Lansing area for the primary home inspection and some of your ancillary ones as well?
The industry is kind of floated towards a per square foot price now on houses. I've been doing this so long, my first inspections were $150. So they were cheap back then. Now basic inspections start about $400 and go up from there depending on how many square footage we're doing. I did a 10,000 square foot house the other day, so then we're approaching $1,000 just for the basic inspection. Generally, radon is $150 or so. The radon device has to be set ideally ahead of time, sits for 48 hours, get the results when we're at the inspection. Wood destroying insect inspection, pest inspection, generally $100 to $150. Again, depends on the square footage. As the square footage goes up, price goes up a little bit. Sewer scopes generally are $200 to $300, depending on who's doing it. Some of the companies that also offer cleaning services may give a discount on that, hoping to get a cleaning service out of it, versus companies that just do the scoping tend to be a little higher because they're not getting any additional services out of it. Mold testing varies. Depends on how many rooms are tested, how many samples need to be taken. So generally a flat fee of $400 to start the process, and then $100 to $200 per additional space that has to be analyzed. Asbestos testing is something I didn't mention earlier. That can be done too. Lab fees on that generally run about $150 per item that's being tested. If we're testing floor tile, ceiling tile, vermiculite, insulation, each one of those would be its own test. Sewer scoping, we talked about well and septic. Well and septic depends on whether or not it's a point of sale county. If it's a point of sale county, we've got county fees included in those prices. So generally about $400 to $500 for a well and septic inspection, depending on who's doing it. That would include uncovering a tank, probing the drain field, doing the water test. If they have the tank exposed and pumped already, sometimes there's a discount on that price. Many of the local sewer pumping companies, septic pumping companies will pump the system for you for a fee. You have that done ahead of time, then you can save a little bit on your well and septic inspection. When the county is involved with the point of sale, then we have their additional fees, and those vary from $275 up to $350, depending on what county we're on. That's on top of the well inspection fee. I think I got all those inspections in there.
Awesome. So you touched on it real quick. We'll just kind of go through these. Radon inspection. What is radon? Should buyers be worried about it? Tell us a little bit about radon.
Radon's a naturally occurring gas. Comes from uranium deposits in the soil. As uranium breaks down, it outgasses radon. Radon is now believed to be the #1 cause of lung cancer in the United States.
So people should be concerned with it.
Should be concerned about it. We have pockets in the greater Lansing area where we're higher than other areas with radon. Tend to go along with the geological makeup of the area. So rivers, lakes, streams, we tend to be higher. Sandy, stony soil tends to be higher.
Okay.
Local areas, DeWitt, Williamston, Hazlitt, Okemos tend to be the highest areas in Greater Lansing. But when we really look at the numbers, Elsie, that area where it's very, very stony, tends to be real high. We just don't have as much information there because there aren't as much people, aren't many houses there being tested, but that tends to be the highest area.
So, radon is a real thing. It can be pretty serious. If a home has radon, then what?
Radon mitigation. Simple system. Prices are real reasonable in mid-Michigan to put a radon mitigation system in. Back when I started doing this, it was $2,000, $3,000 to install a radon mitigation system. And what it is a PVC fan system sucking on the house's slab drain tile system. And that can be via sump crock if the house has a sump crock, or if the sump crock location isn't good for exiting the house, it may seal that system and go to another corner, but then it would exit the house, sucking the radon out of the house. Radon takes the path of least resistance, put a little suction on it, and pull it out. We're even seeing new builders start to install what we call passive radon systems in their houses that don't have an electric fan installed, but just that pipe system during the build process to try to evacuate the radon, because it's a whole lot cheaper for them to install it during the build than it is later. Okay. Systems now here generally about $1,000.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the radon information. Let's see, what do we want to talk about next? How about sewer scope? What is a sewer scope? When should you do a sewer scope?
Sewer scope's kind of a new concept in the inspection industry. As technologies got better with our underground cameras, as things got smaller, we were able to start to offer that as a service. When we have older pipes, particularly a house built pre-75-ish, we are risking root intrusion, we're risking crack pipes, we're risking bellies and such. So initially it was an answer to a problem of someone moving into a house. Things seem to flow well when we're testing it, but when we start peeing and pooping in the toilets and doing a bunch of laundry and kids are showering, we're starting to have backup issues. So by putting a camera down through that pipe, we can visually inspect the condition of that pipe. Look for any of those bellies, look for any cracks, look for any voids in the pipe, and see how much roots have intruded. With the older pipe systems, both tile and cast iron, very common to get some root intrusion. If it gets bad, it can physically block the pipe. Just because we have root intrusion doesn't mean we have to replace pipe. It can often be cleaned and occasionally cleaned in the future to keep things flowing well. But if we have big breakage or huge bellies or other defects, then replacement gets expensive, so it's nice to know before we make the purchase what it's going to cost to replace that pipe. Average house, $5,000 to $7,000 to replace a pipe out to the edge of the street. If it goes underneath the street or on the other side of the street, it gets very, very expensive because the street has to be shut down to do the construction. The street has to be cut and then put back as part of that. So we can be looking at upwards of $15,000 if we have some major damage in a pipe that happens to be in the street or on the other side of the street. So important to spend a small amount of money, $200, $250, to see what the condition of that pipe is prior to purchase.
Okay, and let's talk about pest inspection next. I get a lot of buyers who misunderstand what pest inspection is. They think it's going to be for mice and spiders and stuff like that. So why don't you tell us what a pest inspection actually is?
Technically, a pest inspection is what we call a wood destroying insect report, WDI, or in some parts of the country, a WDO, wood destroying organism inspection. Many pest companies have expanded that to include things like mice and bats, squirrels, other intrusive things. All houses have insect life in it. We just don't want to have a house with a wood destroying insect in it, something that's going to eat our wood. Those would be termites. Yes, we have termites in Michigan. Powder post beetles, a small beetle that comes to our house in the wood. They don't travel, they don't fly around like an ant or termite would, but they come to our house in the wood, and if the wood isn't treated and taken care of, they can spread through the house. And then carpenter ants. There's carpenter ants everywhere. You got a tree, you're gonna have carpenter ants. When it gets dry, the carpenter ants then choose to move into our house to get a source of moisture, and they start chewing at our house and causing destruction. So those are the three big wood destroying insects that we're concerned about that would be addressed during a pest inspection. That's what's filled out in our pest inspection forms. A lot of companies, though, will include the additional information about mice, squirrels, bats. Bats has been a big one lately. Bats are protected species, and because of that, we're starting to see a huge increase in their population, and they tend to start to like living in house attics. No one wants to have a bat in their house. Their feces, their guano, can be toxic, can be harmful to humans. So if we have a bad infestation, it's something important to know if it's there, because we need to get rid of bats. We probably need to get rid of the bat guano too, so it doesn't cause any health issues. A good well and septic inspection report. The inspector is going to check the flow rate on your well. They're going to watch the operation of that well, see how often the pump cycles, make sure the tank is in good shape, make sure it's code compliant to the current well code in that area. Wellhead height, wellhead location, proximity to septic, and buried oil tanks. They will take a sample of that water, send it to a lab. The lab will analyze that water and make sure all the things in that water meet the EPA guidelines. Coliforms, bacteriology, heavy metals, arsenic, all the things that we're testing for. While some counties require it, not all counties do, so it's kind of an optional inspection. But if you have a well, have young kids, it's something to really consider doing. On the septic side of it, they're going to open that tank, observe the effluent in that tank, observe the tank condition, make sure it's holding the water, the ickies, make sure that when it exits the tank, baffles in place, make sure we're not getting solids into the field. And then they're actually going to probe the field to make sure the condition of the soils and stones are in good shape. We can have a system that appears to be working but have saturated stone, meaning it's not handling the decomposition of stuff. and then that would be an issue, and you'd want to know about it. You certainly don't want sewer coming up to the surface on a house that you buy. So that's basically that process. They then put that together and put it in a report, so you've got a drawing of where your sewer or your septic system is, your septic tank is in relationship to your wellhead and your well tank.
So I think the next question I want to ask is, I know that you're a licensed builder and you're a certified home inspector. What are the requirements for home inspectors in the state of Michigan, and what does that look like? How can home inspectors be different?
Great question. Okay. In the state of Michigan, we are one of 12 states that does not require licensure for home inspectors.
So I can be a home inspector today if I want?
Anybody can be a home inspector in the state of Michigan.
Okay.
And there are a lot of anybody's out there calling themselves home inspectors. So you call yourself a home inspector, you're a home inspector. There are certifications that you mentioned, and those certification bodies vary, okay? I shouldn't say vary, there's multiples of them. The largest now is an organization called InterNACHI. Great Education is a for-profit association, and so it's important as a consumer that you understand the difference between an association that's for-profit versus one that's not for-profit. So they're a membership organization that has an individual owner, and so there's a profit motive there. But they have very good education, and they do offer what they call certification. They have a test that their members can take, and certain requirements, and if you meet those, then they can call themselves certified. The other big organization is the older organization, which is American Society of Home Inspectors. They are a nonprofit, also have a test for certification. Their test for certification happens to be the National Home Inspectors Examination. That is the test that is required for licensure in 37 of the 38 states.
Okay.
So they require that third-party test to be a certified member of theirs as opposed to their own internal test. And some inspection requirements, meaning number of inspections that you've done, not necessarily years, but number of inspections, and they review your inspections. So that's kind of the two organizations. Let me go back to the National Home Inspectors exam, again, that's required for the states, 37 of 38 states that have licensure. That exam is a national exam. So that shows competency in all things that an inspector may come across in the inspection world. Some people claim that's not relevant because, for example, here in Michigan, we don't see swamp coolers much. Swamp coolers are on the exam. So someone who's passed that exam has to demonstrate that they understand stuff that we see in the South, also understand stuff that we see in hurricane areas, stuff that we see in earthquake areas. People in the South don't like it because what we see here in the North, fuel oil furnaces, boilers, all included in that test. So it really demonstrates a good base knowledge. So when people ask me who should they hire, that's always one of the things I recommend. Make sure they pass that exam, even though it's not required here in Michigan. It's important that they have that qualification so you know they've achieved at that high level. Separate from that, because the real estate transaction involves other entities, a lender who wants to protect themselves, certain transactions, FHA, VA loans, HUD programs, will sometimes require certification of something. Roof certs, foundation certs, stuff like that. Appraiser sees something, they're not educated in that, they want to make sure it's right, it's kosher, they may require certification. Technically, to do a certification, you must be a licensed builder or a licensed tradesperson in that trade to do a certification. So another consideration may be an inspector that has that builder's license so they can do those certifications. We do certifications all the time for other transactions that we weren't involved with. We have to charge when we do that because we haven't been to that site. We got to go out to the site, write a letter. If we do an inspection and then it requires certification in that process, those certifications are included in the inspection cost.
So anyone can be a home inspector.
Anyone.
There is no requirement in the state of Michigan, but you and it sounds like several other home inspectors in this area do have some credentials
Correct.
that make them more legitimate.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that would be the recommendation to buyers.
Absolutely.
If you're going to hire someone other than accurate inspections, at least make sure it's someone who has some credentials to back up their what they're doing.
And experience is important. They don't have to have done it as long as I do, but to have that construction background is so important, because a house is a difficult system. It's got lots of mini systems in it, all operating together, and understanding how those systems were put together and how they work together is important. And perspective is important too. I often get asked a question during an inspection, is this code compliant? Code's important, but not everyone understands how code works and why code is there. We're led to believe that code is always for our safety. Code is often put in place to sell new products because we have changes in technology. The manufacturers will want to push a new product. We have changes in code too because some of those products don't work out as well as they thought they would. So they have to change the code, take them out of code, put them into code. When we do a home inspection, it's not a code inspection. We may talk about code during the inspection. We have lots of houses that are not code compliant to the current code. That doesn't make them bad houses. They were built to a code at that time, and that's what's important. If we get real old, they're pre-code, and sometimes those are built better because they're using different materials and different processes. So having that perspective is very important during an inspection.
A couple more questions. How long does it normally take you to do a home inspection?
A lot of it depends on the size of the house, obvious, and then also the buyer. We have an experienced home buyer, the process is a whole lot quicker. We have a new home buyer, the process is a lot slower. The more questions we have, the more time it's going to take. It's real important from our perspective that the buyer be there. We understand sometimes that can't happen. We still would like to talk to that buyer, whether it be via Zoom, Facebook chat, or at least on the phone, so we can explain the report, explain what we've seen there. This report gives a ton of information and it can be quite overwhelming, so it's important to be there. But basically 2 hours is what you can inspect on a normal inspection. There are inspectors out there that take longer. There's inspectors that'll send 3 or 4 people and do a group inspection that may condense that a little bit. Those are hard to follow as an individual because you've got 3 guys you're trying to follow around. But in a perfect scenario, home buyers there with us during the inspection time. We can hold their hand, walk them around the house, show them different things, teach them about what they may be buying, show them how to care for what they may be buying, and prepare them for that home ownership.
Yeah, I think that part is one of the more beneficial pieces of a home inspection that is overlooked. I tell my buyers all the time, like, it's great for you to be there. Even if the house is in great condition, you're going to learn things that you need to know about your new home.
Absolutely. Yep, real important that you're there. When you're at the home inspection, be prepared seasonally, okay? This time of year, it can be cold and miserable. We're going to want you to walk around the house with us if you can. So wear your boots, no high heels, don't want you sinking in the lawn, don't want you losing a shoe. Dress warm, be prepared to be outside there. You may want to peek your head in the attic, so take that in consideration too. Don't wear your suit coat if you don't want to get it dusty and dirty while we're looking. We're not going to make you crawl through a crawl space, but it's nice for you to be hands-on and see things when we're at the inspection.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Here's a question I get all the time, and I'm sure that you've gotten it. Are you going to tell me if I should or should not buy this house after the home inspection?
Yes. Often get that, and more often than not, I get it when the parents are at the inspection.
Okay.
So I often have to turn it a little bit because I'm in a different spot in my life and whether or not I would buy that house. So if it's a parent asking me that, I say, okay, let's change the question to, would I allow my son or daughter to buy that house? And I will often advise on that. I don't have a ball in the game as to whether you buy the house or not. And I often tell my buyers, I work for them, only for them, care not whether they buy a house, only care that they understand what they may be buying. So when that question comes, I'm going to change it and say, okay, would I let a friend, a family, a son, a daughter buy the house, and talk about the things that we've just talked about, major things and minor things, and how that all stands up. And we have to take price into consideration too, because there's a buyer for every house, there's a perfect house for every person. You just got to find that right one.
So you kind of touched on what my next question was going to be: major versus minor issues that you find in a home inspection. Can you kind of tell us
absolutely
about that?
The market affects whether something's major or minor too. Okay, if we're in a buyer's market, the inspection may be approached totally different. I don't mean the inspection itself. The end of the process, the writing of an addendum would be much different than when we're in a seller's market. In a seller's market, you sometimes can't ask much if you really need and want that house. Inspection is still important, so you're informed and know what you're buying or may be buying. But then we're going to focus more on health and safety issues, more big major structural issues when it's in a seller's market. When it's a buyer's market, then maybe we can ask more of some of the minor things. Smoke alarms, it's minor, they're $7. Yes, I want you to have smoke alarms in all the required locations, but it's not worth losing a home over because the house doesn't have smoke alarms or the smoke alarms are dated. Small drips, easy to take care of, not a big deal. Significant movement in your foundation, different story. Structural issue, we want to address that. Health and safety issues. Furnace got a broken heat exchanger. It's a no-brainer. We want to address that. We don't want you living in a house that's unsafe.